He didn't plan to break the law. It was just late. The kind of late where the streets go quiet. No cars, no people, just the soft hum of city lights buzzing in the distance. The crosswalk ahead flashed red. He stopped, looking both ways. Nothing. Not a soul on the road. That's when he thought, what's the harm? Just one step and he walked out onto the road, and that was the exact time that he saw the patrol car. Headlights flashed and he froze. He could stay and accept that he would be executed, or he could run before they ID him. This is a world where every crime is punishable by death. What would that world look like? Let's find out. It started with a politician, not a dictator, not a madman, a president, elected legally, charismatic, controlled. He didn't create the fear, he used it. He came to power during a moment of national anxiety. Violent crime surged, corruption scandals flooded the news, and public trust in institutions had plummeted to historic lows. People felt vulnerable, betrayed, and desperate for a solution. A wave of high-profile crimes, a failed justice system, social unrest simmering just beneath the surface. People were angry, and anger is easy to weaponize. His campaign slogan was simple: zero tolerance, total safety. It sounded good, sharp, final. He promised results, promised an end to corruption, to chaos, to the endless cycle of crime and trial and repeat offenders. No more excuses, he said. Break the law, pay the price. The public listened, the media echoed, and Congress bent to his will. Within his first year in office, he introduced the Unified Accountability Act. One law, one penalty. Any criminal conviction, from theft to treason, would carry the same punishment: death. At first, the bill seemed outrageous. Even his opponents believed it was political theater, but the president knew something they didn't. People weren't looking for fairness, they were looking for control. The law was positioned as the ultimate deterrent. If everyone knows the cost, he said, no one will risk breaking the rules. And in a country exhausted by uncertainty, fear made the impossible sound reasonable. Protests broke out. Legal scholars raised alarms, but the bill passed. It started slowly. Pilot programs in high-crime districts where enforcement was tightened, surveillance cameras installed on every street, and mobile execution vans patrolled regularly to swiftly carry out sentences. Federal agents in urban areas, termination zones, crime stats dipped, not because crime disappeared, but because the reporting did. The president's approval surged. He used those numbers to win re-elections in a landslide. In his second term, the law became federal. Surveillance increased, prosecution was fast-tracked, appeals eliminated. The president declared, "The age of compromise is over. America doesn't have a crime problem, it has a consequence problem." And with that, the last vestiges of proportional justice were erased. The Constitution was amended, mercy outlawed. Some say the country changed the day the law passed. Others say it was the day the first execution was televised. But for those living through it, the real shift wasn't legal. It was emotional. When your leaders stop pretending justice is fair and start promising that it's final, something breaks. And it's not the system, it's you. When the law passed, the country didn't erupt overnight. There were no riots, no collapse, just a long, slow exhale. Some people were shocked, others were quietly relieved, but almost nobody was surprised. On paper, the law was terrifying, but the government told a different story. This isn't about killing, they said. It's about preventing crime, deterring it, restoring order. And for millions of Americans watching nightly news clips of lootings, shootings, and corruption, it sounded reasonable. The president reassured them, if you don't break the law, you have nothing to fear. And many believed him, especially those who had never broken a law in their life, the homeowners, the voters, the good citizens. To them, it was simple. Don't steal, don't hurt anyone, don't get killed. But the others knew better, the marginalized, the poor, the formerly incarcerated. They didn't just see justice, they saw a trap. Protests came, not huge, but loud. Lawyers marched, clergy spoke out, students held sit-ins, but the media gave them little oxygen. Pundits dismissed them, and when the first executions were aired, the outrage didn't spread, it fragmented. Soon, complaints became social currency. Neighborhood watches became patriot networks. Schools enforced zero-strike policies. Parents coached their kids never to be noticed. The American dream wasn't freedom, it was survival. Resistance didn't last. Those who tried, artists, hackers, radicals, they disappeared. Sometimes with sirens, sometimes with paperwork. And so the country didn't scream. It went silent. The law passed, the people didn't riot, and so the government got to work. Implementation didn't look like a revolution, it looked like paperwork. First came law enforcement. Officers were retrained, not just in tactics, but in philosophy. There are no second chances, they were told. There is no discretion. Officers no longer made arrests, they made decisions. detain, scan, identify, confirm the offense, process. The method varied: lethal injection, firing squad, black vans with tinted windows and a medical team inside. You were either compliant or you were gone. Courts followed, jury trials eliminated, appeals disbanded, defense attorneys disbarred unless they worked under the new framework. Cases were reviewed digitally, guilty, death, all in under 30 seconds. For the public, the most noticeable change wasn't the executions, it was the quiet. The subtle shift in behavior. People obeyed everything, not out of respect, but out of fear. Technology helped. Cameras everywhere, facial recognition at every corner, body cams synced in the real time. Every streetlight became like a silent witness. Schools followed, new curricula, new surveillance, kids taught not to be good, but to be invisible. And finally, society turned inward. Citizens enforced the law on each other. Tips, reports, anonymous videos. Fear became habit, habit became culture, and then, of course, culture became law. Not because the government said so, but because everyone believed they had no other choice. People adapted, not in the same way. Some became perfect citizens. They followed every rule, spoke only when spoken to, and obeyed out of instinct. They became invisible by design. Perfection became performance, a mask that they could never take off. Others took a different path, the informant. They didn't always follow the law, but they weaponized it. Reporting neighbors, turning in co-workers, gaining favor through fear. It didn't always work, but sometimes it did, and that was enough. The system rewarded them quietly. Better jobs, faster lines, government trust lists. Soon no one knew who to trust. The woman next door, the kids in your class, even your partner. The line between citizen and spy vanished. Some balanced both, model behavior and quiet betrayal. These people climbed fast. They didn't survive the system, they became it. Morality faded, legality replaced it. Acts of compassion like sharing food with someone unable to pay became punishable crimes, illustrating the chilling shift in societal values. People no longer asked, "Is this right?" They asked, "Will it be seen?" Mercy became a crime. Silence became a shield. You had two choices, be perfect or be useful. Either way, you were never safe. At first, life adjusted, then it decayed. People laughed less, spoke less, trusted less. Small businesses vanished, risk was illegal, mistakes were fatal. The economy became cold, corporate, and hollow. Schools became obedience factories. Critical thinking was dangerous. Children memorized laws the way past generations memorized poems. Family dinners went quiet. Parents warned their kids never to speak their minds. Love became transactional. Everyone ran background checks. No one dated without a plan to survive betrayal. Loneliness spread. Depression rose, but in secret. No one reported it. Mental illness was unstable, and instability meant death. And when people did disappear, there were no funerals, no mourning, just silence. Because even grief could be misinterpreted, and eventually surviving replaced living. After witnessing how deeply fear and compliance reshape society, it sounds impossible, but history disagrees. Authoritarian regimes have executed people for jokes, art, and dissent. The machinery already exists. Surveillance and zero-tolerance policies, life sentences for petty crimes. Even in modern democracies, the line between order and oppression is very thin, especially if you're poor or already on the margins. It doesn't take a tyrant to build this world, just someone persuasive enough to say, if you follow the rules, you'll be fine. And someone desperate enough to believe it. Could it happen? Maybe not all at once, but step by step, law by law, fear by fear, yeah. And by the time anyone notices, it'll be too late. If we build a world like this, what are we really trying to eliminate? Crime? Disobedience? If people can't break rules, can anything ever really change? What happens to protest, to art, to mistakes? If everyone is scared to speak, does truth really just disappear? If even the enforcers can make mistakes, do they die too? If everything is illegal, what happens to freedom? And if no one resists, is that peace, or is it just silence? It starts with good intentions, but what begins as protection becomes persecution. Justice becomes execution. And by the time people realize what they've built, it's too late. The fear is constant, the rules are absolute, and the silence is total. No one resists because resistance is death. No one questions because it's also death. Eventually the system stops chasing people. It doesn't have to, because it knows everyone will slip up eventually. Not because they're evil, but because they're human. And in this world, being human is the final crime. So the warning isn't that the world might happen someday. The warning is that it already exists in pieces. And it's growing, law by law, silence by silence, step by careful, obedient, deadly step. And when you finally look up and see nothing but rules, cameras, and graves, you'll realize it didn't come with a bang. It came with a policy and a promise, and your vote on the ballot. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video, tap that like button so more people can find it. And hey, if you want to join the conversation and see more content like this, hit subscribe and ring the bell. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? What do you think we should dive into next? Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and I'll see you in the next one.